Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be going over a used Lexus LX 570. We're going to answer the question of whether or not it's a good idea to purchase a used Lexus LX 570. With all that being said, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larich Miller Toyota here in Murray for giving me some time with this LX 570. Check out the inventory in the link below. Let's get into the video. So under the hood we have a naturally aspirated 5.7 liter V8 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. In terms of power outputs, it's good for 381 horsepower and then 401 pound-feet of torque. And just look at that thing, pretty cool. Now let's go over the front end of the LX 570. So first off, I've always loved the hood on the LX just with all of the lines, and this black paint actually shows it perfectly. And then coming down below, we've got the LED lights with the Lexus check mark, the gigantic Lexus front grille. Some people love it, some people hate it. And then notice we've got the Lexus logo that doubles as a sensor, camera just right below that, and then the fog light here in this area. Overall, it's definitely a good looking front end. I don't know if I prefer this or the Land Cruiser. I like them both for different reasons, but yeah, that's the front end. Now coming on the side here, we've got two 75mm tires wrapped around 21-inch wheels in the front and over in the rear. And just like with the Land Cruiser, it does have the adjustable suspension where you can adjust the ride height up and down. Now, aside from that, here's a quick look at, well, what we can see of the suspension. I like the design on the wheels, pretty cool. We've got the side step here, and then notice we've got the chrome door handles. And then we do have mud flaps here in the front and in the rear. And well, that's all for the side. Ooh. Now let's pop here into the rear of the LX 570. So first off, you can twist these and notice that that locks it, and then you can twist them again. Notice that unlocks it so you can lift it up. So do whatever your heart desires. We'll actually lock all of these so that they don't move all over the place. Aside from that, notice we've got a rubber floor covering, and then this does have the back seats. So for some of the new LXs, you could actually get the package with the rear seats removed. But since this is a 2018, that wasn't available yet. So you've got the seats that go up on the sides, and then notice we've got a little charging port right there. And yeah, that's pretty much everything for the rear. So we'll lift this back up, and then we will shut this. Button's just right there. Kind of look like I know what I'm doing. Now finishing things up in the rear, this is where it looks most similar to the Land Cruiser is from the rear. The taillights are different, but the overall kind of like shape is very similar. And then we do have the exhaust tip here at the bottom, spare tires just underneath as well. And then that is just the cover for the receiver hitch. You've got parking sensors there on the bottom, and well, that's everything for the back. Now here's the door panel in the rear. Notice that we've got this beautiful leather right here. You do get a sunshade for the back passengers, but this one actually does have really good window tint already. The previous owner added to it. Some speakers for the sound system, and then here are the rear seats. Notice that they do have a recline function. Again, I really like the color on this leather, and sorry that I got water on it because it's raining today. Got the screens right here in the back, and they still have the covers on them from the factory, which is pretty cool. Got the floor mats back here, and then notice we've got the vents, all that kind of stuff. The climate controls actually pop up right there for the rear, and then there are some lights up at the top and some vents. And well, let's shut the door before we get more water in the seats. Now here's the door panel in the front. So again, we've got the wood trim with the beautiful leather. We've got all of your window controls, your mirror adjustments, the memory seats right here, and then more leather up there. And then here are the seats at the front. So we've got nice perforations all throughout. Power adjustments on the side of the seat. Notice we've got Lexus LX, and then there's the pedal layout down below. And you got like this for the heads-up display, for example, and then the lights. The steering wheel is automatically adjustable, and there's one more look before we pop in. Now starting with the steering wheel, we've got nice wood trim at the top, leather here in the center, and then more wood trim, and then more leather. Got a cruise control right here, lane keep assist controls for the center stack, and then you've got stuff like your voice command, volume controls, phone controls. Got these little paddle shifters there on the back for the 8-speed automatic. Light size turn signal stock, winch wiper stock, and that's all for the steering wheel. Now here's the center gauge cluster. Notice we've got analog gauges for most of the stuff, and then we do have that screen right there in the center, which you can scroll through a few different menus basically to give you different bits of information here on the LX. So we can see like the outside temperature, for example, which thank goodness it's not 100 degrees. I'll take rain over 100 degrees. But anyways, also notice that this shows where you're at with the suspension. And then this particular LX has about 25,000 miles on it. Now here's the center infotainment system. First off, we're gonna pop it into reverse, and notice we got the backup camera on the bird's eye view, but then if we go to drive, notice we have the front camera, so it's pretty cool that it does that. Now as for the rest of the infotainment system, it's all controlled via a little keypad thing. It is not a touchscreen. It's actually pretty easy to use the keypad. It does take a second, but once you actually get used to it, then it's pretty simple. What I'd recommend is just small movements, because if you use big movements, it moves over a lot, but then if you use just little movements, then it's a lot easier to control. But yeah, that's everything for the center screen. Got the Lexus clock down here, a couple of vents, and we've got all of our analog controls here for the climate system. And notice we've got the duals on here for the front, and then you do have the rear climate. I love how you have a climate concierge where it does everything for you. Funny that they label it that. And then notice we've got the logo for the Mark Levinson sound system, and we have the wood covering it here for the cup holders there at the front. We've got the parking brake, and we've got the shifter for that 8-speed automatic transmission. And then this is for the whole infotainment system. They have the wrist rest here with nice leather, and then that's what you use to actually control the infotainment system. Now I've got a bunch of stuff happening here. We've got our heated, cooled seats, heated steering wheel, and then notice we've got our turning assist, and then the climbing assist, stability control, and then the locker, and then the ECT second, and then we've got our crawl control right here, and then we've got a drive mode, so you have your comfort, eco, normal, and then you've got your sport and sport plus on the one side, and then this is to go into low range, and then this is for the suspension to raise and lower it, and then of course we have the refrigerator center console, which is very important. And then notice that the stitching actually is kind of all in line with that. And then it's got nice leather here on the dash as well. And then if we open up the glove box, well, normal glove box, but the outside padded with leather. Now up top here, we've got the sunroof, and then you do have the control center on either side, sunglass holder, which pops open really easy. It's just like easiest thing ever. Anyways, lighter colored headliner, and that's all for the top. If you want the most up-to-date pricing on this particular LX 570, check out the Larry H. Miller Toyota & Murray's website in the description down below. The one thing I will say, though, it's interesting, is the Land Cruisers really don't depreciate all that much, and then the LXs are more expensive, but then their values go down to where the Land Cruisers are selling at, so they pretty much sell for the same amount of money, but since these are more expensive, they technically depreciate at a higher rate. Kind of weird, but yeah. Anyways, let's take it out and drive it. Let's talk about visibility before we set off here in the LX 570. So there's your visibility of the hood through both of the mirrors. They do have blind spot monitoring, and then throughout the rest of the rear. Let's set off. Setting off here in the LX 570, let's first talk about the road noise and the ride quality. So first off, from a ride quality perspective, it is exceptionally smooth. It just definitely has this nice luxury car feel to it. Like when you go over stuff, it doesn't upset it whatsoever, and it just floats down the road. It definitely has a really nice feel. Like going over these little manhole covers really doesn't upset it. But yeah, just it's so nice from a luxury driving perspective. Now, aside from the driving, let's actually talk about the road noise, which is pretty much non-existent. Like you hear a little bit of tire noise, but it's very, very minimal. This is a very well insulated vehicle overall. And so again, it just gives you this really nice luxury feel. And that's where I want to get into something. I never understood why people bought these, because most people don't take them off road. And so I'm like, why would you spend the amount of money that this vehicle costs? And right, it's supposed to be this, you know, really capable off-road vehicle, and you never take it off-road. But then I've driven a few of these, and now I understand it. So like, yes, this has tons of off-road capability, but it's also one of the nicest luxury vehicles on the market. Again, super smooth ride quality, really smooth engine and transmission, and then it's really well insulated as well. And on top of that, it's just absolutely massive, which, let's get our acceleration. You can see it's just smooth with the acceleration. It's absolutely massive, so you just feel really protected in this, and you just feel taken out of the world. And so I now understand why people get these. Like a bunch of my neighbors have these, and it's kind of interesting because they don't have kids. So I'm like, so you bought this big third row SUV and you don't have kids, but it just makes sense. It's this big, comfortable luxury SUV, and even if you're never going to take one around in this and you're never going to take it off road, it's still such a nice vehicle. But aside from that, let's kind of get into the main topic of today's video, which is, should you buy a used LX 570? And short answer, yes. Here's why. So first off, I mean, this one that I'm in particularly was definitely taken care of, like really, really well. It's got 25,000 miles on it, and it looks brand new from an interior perspective. Like, I really don't see any wear and tear on this interior. And so again, whoever owned this did a really good job of taking care of it. Now, aside from this particular example, here's what I kind of see is, again, with the Land Cruisers, they don't depreciate all that much off of MSRP. So if you can get a new Land Cruiser at MSRP, then that's a really good value. The LX 570s, on the other hand, it seems like they do depreciate a little bit. It seems like the used market doesn't value these as a higher valued vehicle compared to a Land Cruiser. It seems like the market values them at the same amount. And so these having about a $15,000 to $20,000 higher MSRP than a Land Cruiser, then lose $15,000 to $20,000 in value pretty much once you buy them brand new. And so it's not really a great value brand new compared to the Land Cruiser. And so I would rather buy one of these used or a Land Cruiser new, if that makes sense. Again, just because of where the values go when these are pre-owned. And it also makes sense, right? They're the same vehicle, just pretty much a reskin on the outside. And so I understand why the market doesn't value the Lexus as a more expensive vehicle, right? You're just paying for the Lexus name. So yeah, definitely really solid. You guys, I'm a huge fan of these. I love how this drives, and hopefully that kind of cleared things up for you guys if you are looking into purchasing one of these LX 570s or the Land Cruiser as well. Now that's going to sum things up for our video on this Lexus LX 570. And again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Large Miller Toyota here in Murray for giving me some time with the LX. Check out their inventory and link below. I'll see all of you in the next video.